to introduce the next moderator for this particular session. And his name is Murendeni Mafumo, who is the founder of Kusini Water. And I'm also going to give him the opportunity to introduce his panel members. And he'll also be taking questions a little bit later on during his session. So please keep those questions nice and short, just so we can give everybody a chance. But Murendeni, please join us on stage.
All right, so I've got the graveyard shift immediately after lunch. How's everybody feeling? No? There we go. Where's my crew? Where's Ntika and them from my crew? I asked them to cheer on as I come up to this session. So I've asked the wrong people, clearly. There we go. All right, guys, we're going to get a lot of young people as well. So we're going to get this session. It's going to be so cool. We've got 4 entrepreneurs, like exciting entrepreneurs, including myself. No? Okay, thank you. So we've got some really amazing entrepreneurs coming up for this session. We've broken up the session into 2. So the first part of the session, we're going to be talking to some young people that are doing amazing work, both here in South Africa, in Uganda, as well as in Kenya.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And then the second part of the session is going to be people that are supporting the entrepreneurs. So these are support organizations. I think they're called EOs. These are organizations that are both here in South Africa, just like Indalo, just like the Innovation Hub, but also in Kenya as well. Organizations that are looking every day at innovation. So the idea for this session is, are there opportunities? What are some of the ways within the green sector in which we can cross-collaborate? So entrepreneurs collaborating with other entrepreneurs from South Africa, from Kenya, from Uganda, and so forth and so forth. So therefore, that brings me to an exciting first person that I'm going to be introducing you to, who has partnered with my organization, Kusini Water, and that is Leslie. So Leslie runs an organization called the Chemistry Solution. So what they do at the Chemistry Solution, if I can find I'm going to find it, and then I'm going to tell you a lot more about what they do at the Chemistry Solution while Leslie comes up. Someone please bring my folder there at the back with my laptop. So Leslie is going to come up from the Chemistry Solution. The next person that I'm going to be calling up, there we go. So Leslie Mukwanda, she's the owner of the Chemistry Solution, a water testing and treatment solutions company. She has a master's in chemistry, specializing in polymer science, and she believes it is our responsibility to make the world a better place. So we recently partnered with Leslie to bring access to clean water in the Western Cape. I haven't even seen the site, but I'm really, really excited about having you, Leslie, and welcome. There we go. Second person I'm going to be calling is Maya. Maya has a very, very interesting organization that she runs. I didn't understand it. I'll be honest with you. I'm just a mere water scientist. I didn't understand what Maya does. But Maya holds a BCom in economics, philosophy, and politics, along with an honors in economic science from the University of Witwatersrand. Her academic background, combined with keen interest in sustainable development, led her to choose sustainable agriculture as a career. She's grounded in the belief that sustainable agriculture and circular food economies can drive positive environmental impact, and her journey towards sustainable agriculture has led her to the black soldier fly processing. I'm very, very interested in hearing that. All right, welcome, Maya. Who else do we have? We have Dominic. Dominic is from Kenya. Dominic Wanjira. Who's Dominic? Who's Dominic? Oh, there we are. So Dominic is an inventor. We actually went to see one of his inventions when we were out in Nairobi. He's got some amazing technology that he's working on, primarily focused on developing, on promoting climate-smart agriculture, reducing deforestation, water and waste management, as well as invasive weed management. His work primarily focuses on reusing, recycling, repurposing, permaculture, and regenerating agriculture, carbon sequencing, and climate change mitigation in all of his innovations that he drives in his organization. Welcome, guys. Did I miss anyone in this panel? This is everyone, right? Did I miss anyone in this panel? All right. Oh, there's, what's his name? Samuel, yeah, Samuel is from Kenya as well. Sorry, Samuel. I had my notes all mixed up here. Right, let me get Samuel's introduction. Samuel is from an organization called The organization is, what is it called again? We call this Acacia. So we called him Samuel Acacia. Samuel is also from Kenya. I'm trying to find my notes now, and I can't find Samuel's. There we go. So he's currently the project manager at Acacia EPZ. He's passionate about empowering pastoralist communities, especially women and youth. He does this by cultivating alternative income streams through gum Arabic trade, fostering economic resilience in arid regions, and is dedicated to enhancing livelihood and sustainability through innovative solutions in traditional industries. All right, guys, I'm going to give you a few minutes to introduce yourself better than I did, because I know you guys are doing some amazing work that I can never be able to explain. So I'm going to start with you, Samuel from Acacia. So you've got about 2 minutes. Give us as much as you want to tell us about yourself.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. I am Samuel Shilajiro. The organization I work with deals with sourcing gum Arabic from the Kenyan Northern Aridlands. And gum Arabic primarily is an exudate from an acacia Senegal. Acacia has more than 48 species, so the specific one is Acacia Senegal, and the gum Arabic is used in the food and pharmaceutical industries as a preservative, emulsifier, and stabilizer. So we work primarily with people who live a nomadic lifestyle, and they are based in the Kenyan Aridlands. So this has given them an opportunity to get an alternative source of income. And beyond sourcing for the product from the community members, we also engage the community members to harness biomass from invasive species and then the waste from the gum Arabic is used as a binder. In the northern communities, we also have infrastructure problems, and they don't have any agricultural produce to trade in. So their primary source of income is livestock. And when we go for the product, we also make a point of taking food to them at cost in exchange for the gum Arabic. So in addition to giving them an alternative source of income, we also ensure that they have access to food. Thank you.
Amazing. Dominic?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again, Indalo, for the opportunity. My name is Dominic Wanjihia Kahumbu from Biogas International, a company we founded in 2011. We started off, like most biogas companies, looking for a solution for people in the rural areas. At that time, the technologies that are around were the fixed dome system and the floating top system. I've always known, since I started tinkering with biogas when I was about 10 years old, that you can make biogas with basically anything biodegradable. So we developed a technology, we call it flexi biogas, which is far, far more efficient than conventional technologies. It's like an upgrade, it's like an iPhone of biogas. And you can use anything and everything that's biodegradable. So you're not limiting to dairy farmers and to pig farmers. You can literally, anybody who has biodegradable material at their disposal, they can use it to make biogas. And if you look at the food chain of what makes biogas, the higher the calorific value of the ingredient, the higher the biogas production. So human food, like what we end up with in the dump sites, restaurant food, waste from markets, it has 5 to 10 times more gas potential than animal dung. So from there, we went in, of course, the schools started asking for it. So we upscaled to much, much larger systems. And then that ventured us into human waste management systems as well. So now we have human waste management systems, which are separate from the biogas system, principally because African culture, people don't want to cook with gas from human waste, and they certainly don't want to use the fertilizer on their food. So we make sure that those are very, very separate. That also took us to the invasive species, because we have huge problems of water hyacinth in Kenya, in Lake Victoria and Lake Naivasha. I've heard people talking about water hyacinth in Zambia and also in South Africa. So we looked at the water hyacinth. All these invasive weeds are here for a reason. Nature put them there. So how can we manage them rather than try to remove them? Because water hyacinth is cleaning the water. So if you manage it by maintaining a steady population, you maintain the water filter, and then you harvest the plant, feed it to the digester, you get the nutrients back, and you get gas, and huge amounts of gas as well. So we're doing that with water hyacinth, we're doing it with Upuntia cactus, which is another invasive species. We're doing it with acacia in, we call it mathenge. It's Prosopis juliflora, which is another invasive species in northern and southern Kenya. We're doing it with Doda cascuta, which is another invasive species. So basically, in Africa, what we like to say is that where there are humans, there's water. Where there is water, there is something growing. That thing growing can be used as a feedstock for biogas digesters, and you get the nutrients back, so you get your organic fertilizer. So we have absolutely no excuse for being in the state of poverty that we're in right now, especially with food insecurity and what have you. We have the resources at our fingertips, we just need to utilize them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, guys, go to menti.com. You guys will see the link up there. We want to hear a little bit about what you guys are thinking, what's coming out. Interact with menti.com as much as possible as the session is going. I'm very, very interested in the iPhone of biogas. I want to see the iPhone of biogas here in SA. Yeah. So, Maya, tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Hello, everyone. Is it working? Hello? Yeah.
Yes, okay.
I'm really grateful to be here, and thank you to the Indalo team. I co-founded Pillar Feed 2 years ago. Pillar from the Zulu word is ipilayo, which means living things. We named it this because it's all living things that we want to serve through our systems. Pillar Feed is a decentralized black soldier fly farm that utilizes the natural life cycle of a black soldier fly. So basically, we mimic the life cycle of a fly to create systems to process food waste into fly larvae and insect fertilizer. The insects themselves can be used in animal agriculture as a sustainable and nutritious protein source for livestock, while the frass, or insect fertilizer, can be used as a soil amendment, which is really great for plant growth and soil fertility, amongst many other benefits. So we are creating a decentralized approach as we want to create local food economies, utilizing a container model. This will allow us to go into different communities and analyze their waste supply and their food agri-input needs, and create systems that work for those communities while adopting a technology that requires low-skill labor and is employable. This process really feeds into the circular food economy, and for me is the key that closes the food loop to be able to sustain food systems.
Amazing. Very, very interesting. Leslie, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the Chemistry Solution.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leslie Mkwada from the Chemistry Solutions Company.
Can you guys hear? They can't hear you.
So at the Chemistry Solutions Company, we focus on using chemistry and science to solve our everyday problems. So one of the challenges we've been addressing is the poor water quality, particularly here in South Africa. 70% of all our water service providers, they fail to comply with the safety requirements. And then over 50% of them don't comply with the microbial safety requirements. And this has resulted in people dying from drinking contaminated water. So what we've done is we have developed kits that you can use to test the water quality, to check if it's safe to use or not. And so our kits can be used for any water source, whether it's tap water, bore water, seawater, they work for that as well. And in addition to that, we also do water quality treatment. So we use different technologies, activated carbon to purify water, reverse osmosis to purify water, to make sure that people have access to clean and safe water. So this is what we do briefly, and also supplying clean water to communities that actually need clean water. That's also a priority for us as well.
Sure. Leslie, we recently, just last month, passed the 50 million liters per month mark where I work. 50 million liters per month to communities means 50 million different chemistry parameters that we have to worry about. How do you ensure that you can bring a solution to other parts of the continent in an affordable way? How are you thinking about collaboration with other people that are within Kenya, within other parts of East Africa, West Africa, and Southern Africa, but also thinking about affordability as well?
So one of the things that we've been looking at is creating relationships and partnerships with different distributors across the globe. For instance, now we've done sales in Mozambique, Rwanda, Nigeria. And at the moment, that is one of the challenges that we've had is the lack of infrastructure, which limits us, which brings the cost of the kits very high. So by the time it gets to Nigeria, instead of it being 400 rand, the kit now has to cost 1,200, for instance. So by improving infrastructure and being part of distribution channels, that helps us to be able to reach the markets. And I'm also grateful recently for the African trade, free trade that has been put in place, which is going to make things a lot easier as well in terms of reaching to other markets.
Yeah. So Sam, you work in a specific area of Kenya, a semi-arid area in Kenya. Are you thinking about going into other parts of the continent? How are you thinking about going into other parts of the continent? And have you seen opportunities to collaborate in other parts?
Yes, thank you. In all the countries within Africa, we have areas that have the same characteristics as the northern part of Kenya. If you look at the East African region, we have countries like South Sudan, we have Ethiopia, we have Somalia. And in South Africa, we also have the Kalahari, along which we have the same characteristics. So utilizing bodies and treaties like the COMESA, that is an opportunity for organizations to be able to engage in trade with other enterprises. And in our neighboring countries, we are looking at people who are dealing with the trade so that we can be able to come together. That gives an opportunity for better bargaining powers and economies of scale when exporting.
So Dominic, as an inventor, we went to see your factory. There's a lot of amazing things that you're doing there. Do you see a lot of barriers in bringing your innovation cross country, even within Kenya or just East Africa? Do you see a lot of barriers that are existing right now that are preventing you from scaling further?
Not really barriers from. Biogas is exempt in all the different countries. Provided you get the correct HS code, then there shouldn't be any, apart from the Kitu Kidogo that they ask for at the border, the customs officers. There is no actual barriers to move these renewable energy products across borders. The challenge is it's a new technology. One of the biggest problems we face in Kenya, I think the same applies across Africa, is policymakers and they believe that we have to import technologies. They don't believe that Africans can invent things. So getting local adaptation of local products is a very, very uphill task. We have different companies from Europe, what have you, bringing technologies. One company is called, I won't say the name, but one company is, 2 companies are replicating our technology 100% bumper to bumper because they came with their own technology, it failed, so they copied ours, and they're going around claiming this comes from Germany, this comes from Israel, this comes from wherever, when in fact it's our technology, they're just replicating. So, what we're trying to get to, can we adopt it? We have developed a working model where we are managing municipal waste. Our target is to kill the dump sites. Once you kill the dump sites, you clean the rivers automatically, and you reduce all of the greenhouse gases emitted from the greenhouses, from the dump sites. We do that by managing waste at source. So you don't move I heard someone mention earlier that the cost of moving waste is extremely expensive. If you manage it where it is generated, then you're not moving it. So your costs are already right down. And wherever you are, for instance, where the waste is most prevalent is in towns. And where in towns, that's where the charcoal is used, in the low-income areas. So you can offset the charcoal, so you're saving the trees, by using the gas, by supplying communal kitchens or even piping gas to restaurants and houses or schools or institutions. So you can use the gas where you could move the waste very easily to a school, for instance, to have where the biogas digesters are. So the barriers are more in the mind of the potential users. So we're slowly but surely making a mark. We now have about maybe 40 or 50 of our big systems out there, 3 within municipalities, and they're working very successfully. So we hope to use those as, copycat, because the technology can be copy-pasted from one place to the next. Yeah.
No, very interesting. There's a program called Indalo, the replicator program, which answers a lot of those questions. I was part of that program a few years ago, which allowed us to right now we've replicated in South Africa, and the big part of the reason was because of the replicator program, and I think there's a lot you can plug in. I want to push you guys a little bit on the spot. I think the conversation is too comfortable for my liking. I want to make it a little bit more uncomfortable. I'm going to start with you, Maya, and then with you, Leslie. We've got some enterprise development or enterprise support organizations, ASOs, that are going to be coming up next. These guys are doing great work in supporting guys like you guys that are starting off. What do you think their role is in enhancing or enabling collaboration, cross-country collaboration, and also scaling? What do you think their role specifically is? But also, do you have a message for them? Is there something you want to tell them? Something they're not doing right that you think they can do better? I've got some few things, but I'm not going to say them because I'm a moderator, and rest is going to fire me. So are there some things that you believe these guys should know? What do you think their role is in enabling what you guys are doing to get to where Dominic is?
Put me on the spot. So I think on a basic level, I think everything has been put in place. You know, the networking events, the programs.
I think your mic is
not working now. Oh wait. Sorry. There we go. So I've participated in the Indalo Inclusive program, amongst another one, and attending conferences, being part of the program, I've developed a lot of skills and confidence to potentially collaborate. But I think maybe what the role or something that could be added is, as a first-time founder, those negotiation processes or the conversations sometimes just get left at, oh yeah, we should collaborate, or yeah, I would love to talk to you, and the interest kind of stops at the conference or maybe 1 or 2 emails. So I think really nurturing entrepreneurs to be able to push for those collaborations and partnership development could be a great role.
Yeah, I strongly believe that small businesses are over-mentored and underfunded. I think if we were to be a little bit more funded, we would be reaching for the stars a little bit more. But I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are on this topic of enterprise support organizations within both the context of South Africa and regional context. What do you think they can do better? Or what is it that they're doing well that you think we must praise them for?
Thank you, Meridian, for that. I was going to bring that up as well to say there is a lot of support in how to do skills transfer, which is quite great, and knowledge transfer as well as networks to reach other markets. And like in this room today, for instance, we have investors, we have policymakers, we have a lot of important decision makers in this room, and this actually is a very huge opportunity that allows us to grow as entrepreneurs. And in terms of funding, I think we need more funding to allow us to build those infrastructures and systems we need to succeed, and to allow us to afford, I would say, opportunities to do things in a more structured way. That helps a lot.
Yeah, so the question of skills is actually a very interesting question that I'm going to pose to Mr. Ntutuko, who is very, very passionate about bridging the skills gap. And I think he's going to have a very good response to that, because I think it's something that he's really passionate about. Do you have some examples of something that you say, this has been replicated really well, maybe in your region or maybe in other regions of entrepreneurs that are existing, that are replicated in other regions, that you think this has been replicated really well. Do you guys have any examples? Who do I start with? Sam or Leslie? Do you have some examples?
Yes, I actually have an example for your company, Kusini. What you've done with the business model, you've managed to penetrate all the low-income areas, schools, targeting schools, and gain hundreds of locations. And you've successfully replicated that, and so well done for that.
I promise you, I didn't say that to them. I didn't say that to Leslie. But I think that's quite interesting. When I think about the challenges that we have when we went to Amboseli, the water challenges that we have. Do you guys have some examples specifically from innovation that has been brought in from other parts of the continent into Kenya, for example, in the water space that I've seen, or any other space that you've seen good examples of that? Thanks for that, Leslie.
Unfortunately, no, I can't. I can say that we've seen our M-Pesa being spread across the continent, actually across the world. I mean, I think M-Pesa was the first mobile phone money transfer platform, and it's been replicated. I think what's important to say is that, you know, in Africa, when Africans develop solutions to their problems, those solutions work because they live the problems. So there's a lot of downloading of technologies from Europe and from the West, where someone's sitting behind a computer in some university somewhere thinks, I've got a solution for Africa. Because they've got the money from their country, they can come and try and implement it here. And a lot of them end up being white elephant projects. You know, as soon as they've got their glossy photos and they go away, the project collapses. So we need to get our own local people, you know, interested in local innovations and local solutions, and take them to scale. It's taking our projects to scale. We applied for a grant, Innovate UK grant, and our concept was so foreign to the previewers that we couldn't get the grant. It was because they couldn't conceptualize what we were talking about because they don't live in the, you know, where we are. So yeah, we've developed a disease called grant application fatigue syndrome, because. Because yeah, it's just so tiring, you know, getting those rejects emails.
Yeah.
Yeah. So funding, as you said, funding is the biggest drawback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's very, very interesting. So one of the things that I think one of the bigger impacts that I've seen from organizations such as, for example, Indalo, is that they are there in the areas. I think that's one of the biggest things. One of the biggest commands that I've got. I don't know how many kilometers Car has done. Probably 500,000 kilometers. And I think that's important. And I think that's a message we want to send to even the enterprise development organizations. Be there. Understand the context. Because if this concept is too foreign to you, you have no idea the context of water shortage in Amboseli, for example, you're just not going to get it. Yeah. So therefore, you won't fund it. Sam, do you have some sort of thoughts around what are some of the collaborative maybe ways in which collaboration between the two regions can help, especially Kenya and South Africa, especially when it comes to things like access to market, access to funding? What are some of the ways in which you think collaboration between entrepreneurs can help and enhance access to things like funding?
For East and Southern Africa, when organizations that are within the same space come together, they will have a higher bargaining power, especially when they are applying for things like grants. And even in the absence of grants, if they are in the same line of business, they can come together, pool resources to be able to expand. There is also an opportunity of sharing distribution networks, so that entry, especially when you're bringing your products to another country, becomes easier in terms of access to market.
Yeah. So I'm going to sort of wrap this up, and I'm going to ask you guys to give me a little bit of your thoughts around, if you look at the two regions, South Africa, Kenya, and let's also talk about Southern Africa as well as East Africa. What excites you? What really gets you super excited about, especially in our space, the green economy space? What's exciting you? What are you looking forward to? With that, also give me a little bit of a closing 30 seconds. If you guys have questions, please make them specific to a person, and we're going to answer them at the end. Is that okay? Oh, is everybody gone? It's the food, yeah? All right. Let me start with Maya. Let me start with you. What are some of the things that you think are exciting within the two regions? What's getting you up in the morning, and also your closing words?
My thing's red.
It's good?
No, it's red.
That's fine.
Let's try this one.
No, it's meant to be green.
Oh.
Thank you. What excites me is I feel as a society we are moving back towards indigenous knowledge, and especially within the agriculture space. And with that being said, I think Africa is like the key resources and key knowledge within that space. So seeing or being in the black soldier fly industry, I am connected to, from retail to the whole food chain. We're dealing with food waste, we're dealing with agriculture supplies, and I have noticed that amongst the whole system, there is this huge draw towards sustainable practices for farmers, but also to support sustainable farming practices by purchasing food that is grown in a sustainable way. And yeah, I think that's really exciting, and having Africa as the key fountain of information in that sense.
Yeah, African solutions to African challenges. Love it. Leslie, go for it.
For me, the fact that both in the East and South, we share the same kind of problems. So if we're able to apply solutions that are being used in the East to the South, and also the South to the East, and collaborate together, that will allow us to actually grow together and improve our continent. And especially now, we have a large youth population, so it would excite me to see a lot of enterprise support organizations supporting businesses owned by women, owned by disabled people, so that they grow and we grow the continent. Thank you.
Fantastic. Sam, from Acacia.
Okay, thank you. What is interesting for me, getting to learn that conservation efforts are being driven by business in both countries. If you look at what Indalo is doing with the enterprises, they are leading them towards ensuring that conservation and adaptation to climate change is up and running. And it's the same thing that we are doing up in the north, because for you to tell that person, do not cut down trees to make charcoal, you need to give them an alternative which is more sustainable, and it is business-led. So that is what is exciting me about the conservation efforts in both countries.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Dominic.
I think what's exciting here, about this panel alone is, what you're seeing here out of all of these, and I'm sure all of the other entrepreneurs, nothing that they're doing, they learned in school. Entrepreneurship is about doing what you're passionate about. I think our education system has failed us in that we were downloaded with an education system from the British or from the French or from whoever. And it was designed to train people to get jobs. Now, there are no jobs. Yeah? So the people who are making it today are the entrepreneurs, the people who are using their own heads, going out, training themselves in very specific fields. They are now going to be employing those who went to school. Because, so the role is turned completely. It's doing the completely opposite. So we need to change our education system. We need to set up colleges and technical training institutions where you're training these kind of things, like how to build your soil. Soil is the foundation of everything. So the frass from the black soldier fly is very essential. The water is absolutely essential. Value addition to products is absolutely essential. Energy is what we're doing. It's all in this whole climate smart, nature-based solutions. There is opportunities galore. We haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg. And it's across Africa. It's not in East Africa, and the opportunities are not in South Africa or in West Africa. Everywhere, all of the conditions in the entire continent is similar. The same as Asia, the same as in South America. So there is huge potential to multiply these, copy-paste these solutions across the globe, leave alone just across Africa.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, guys. Can you give them a round of applause, guys? No, so thank you very much, guys. As you guys go down, I'm going to ask for my next esteemed panel. And on that last point, you know, I always say that as much as I'm a water scientist, 90% of what I know I learned from YouTube now. So that's a very good point, Dominic. So before I butcher the next panel, because they're esteemed guests, I'm gonna ask them to come up, and then they will introduce themselves. Can I please get Mr. Savio Wambugu from Mount Kenya Hub? Where's Savio? There's Savio there at the back. Guys, give them a round of applause. We are all cold. Let's get warm, nyana. You want tea? Tea? Okay, no, no tea. All right. Please, can I get David Chiborita from E4 Impact Entrepreneurship Center in Kenya as well. Mr. David, you can come up. Mr. Ntutuko Nyandeni from the Innovation Hub, please come up. Isabel Dutoit from Fetola. There we go, that's more like it, Fetola. Thank you. Isabel. And then Dr. Mao, I'm going to call Dr. Mao. Where's Dr. Mao? Dr. Mao, you're going to be on standby. Do you want to come sit? Are you going to be there? You can come join us, Mr. Mao. Isabel, you sit next to me. All right. I'm not sure if everybody has a mic. Gentle guys. All right. We'll just give you the handheld mics. All right. So what we're going to try and achieve with this session is to talk about what are some of the opportunities that are existing that you guys are seeing as you are supporting green enterprises in your countries. We've got three countries that are represented here. We want to talk about cross-collaborative opportunities, talk about barriers, we want to talk about challenges, opportunities, and what really is exciting you. Also, at the same time, I want you to respond to the entrepreneurs, some of the criticism that they give you. It's time to hit back. You guys are always getting the punches. So, before we go ahead, I'm going to give you guys we all know what you do. So I'm going to give you about a minute and a half to introduce your organizations, starting with you, Isabel.
Okay, it's on. Hi, everybody. Isabel Dutoy here from Fetola. We run BDS programs, so business development support programs, and we help with fund management for some very big funds around here. We're getting started on that anyway. And we run in all 9 provinces with a focus on women, rural, youth, and sustainability, so environmental practices. Those are our core foundations. And I'm going to encourage you to go look at our website for more information.
Hi, everyone. My name is Savio Wambugu from Kenya. I run an innovation hub called Mount Kenya Hub, which started as a tech hub, but right now we have really diversified towards climate-smart technologies and smart agriculture. And I'm also the chairperson of Association of Countrywide Innovation Hubs. And I also have another chairperson here.
So you guys have a professional football players in one of your...
Oh.
Please, you have to share that.
Just don't body shame me, but I used to be a professional footballer. Yeah, I played for the national team under 20 and under 17, but it's not a sustainable business in Kenya to play football.
All right, thank you. My name is David Cheboriot. I'm the director of the E4 Impact Entrepreneurship Centers. E4 Impact is a spin-off of the business school of the Catholic University of Milan in Italy. We're actually present in 20 African countries running programs, entrepreneurial programs. And in our entrepreneurship center in Kenya, we do pre-incubation, incubation, and acceleration. We actually also have a small seed fund, which we call E4 Invest, which we invest in some of the innovators that we are working with. And as Savio said, I also happen to chair the Association of Startup and SME Enablers of Kenya that brings together about 120 ESOs, which are enterprise support organizations, so incubators and accelerators, yes. Thank you.
Not a former football star?
No.
Okay. Mr. Tutu.
Okay, hi, my name is Tutu Nyandeni. I am from across the science park just across called the Innovation Hub. So I am part of the green economy, which is the green unit. We have about 3, or I can say 4, incubation programs. We have your biosciences one, and then we have your ICT one, and we have what we call AgriSA labs, which are like a mirror of the program that we do, but they are based in the townships in Gauteng. So yeah, we're nicely located just next to CSIR and between universities. So yeah, that's basically what we do.
Dr. Ma?
Hello everyone, my name is Mao Amis. I'm the founder and executive director of the African Center for Green Economy. We're a think tank that is based in Cape Town, but we work across the region. We're 12 years this year, so it's been a journey working in this space, and we see ourselves as a knowledge broker to foundations, to institutions like the Indalo and the likes, and supporting entrepreneurs. And since 2014, we have been incubating entrepreneurs across the region. Initially, our program was called the New Economy Accelerator. Now it's called the Green Innovation Hub, where we have a virtual incubation for entrepreneurs across the region. I see myself as preaching the gospel of connecting South Africa to the rest of the continent, because South Africa has been good to me, 20 years here. I've done amazing stuff, and really my goal is how can we connect entrepreneurs to the rest of the continent, because I think that when we work together, we're able to harness opportunities better. So really good to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Right, we've got some really, really amazing guests here. David, as an organization that is already in over 20 African countries, I mean, that's big. What are some of the challenges and barriers that you've seen that are hindering effective collaboration in all the regions that you're operating in?
I think for an enterprise support organization, one of the challenges that we actually face, I think it's two-faced, right? Challenges as being an ESO itself, and challenges that our entrepreneurs face. So if I start with the challenges our entrepreneurs face, they're actually looking to raise investment. But I think for most of the times when they're coming to us or to incubators and accelerators, they're not ready yet to raise investment. So, and sometimes when you work with them, sometimes they don't take advice so well, and that is the thing around innovators, right? They fall in love with their innovation and their idea. And now you have to work with them a bit more to unlock and make them a bit more easy to take your feedback so that they can actually, let's say, raise funding. If I have to think about the specific challenge actually for green and inclusive business, this is sort of a new sort of market segment where not a lot of investors have invested in. So they have not put a lot of money there. And so before you can have a proven business model that is investable, that is still a bit of a problem. So we actually need, and if there are investors in the room, banks and so on, to actually take a leap of faith and put a bit of some early grants financing, which does not demand a very high return on investment at the beginning. I think that's a challenge that innovators are facing. I think the other bit from an ESO perspective, I think some of the enterprise support organizations, and I've seen that across Africa, many in Kenya and other countries where we are present, some of them are actually startups by themselves. And they actually need investment and capital. They also need to build their own business models, sustainable business models, because they cannot teach and train innovators to be sustainable while themselves they are not. So I see that as a challenge which also needs to be addressed a bit. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm actually going to come to Fetola as well, because I'm very, very interested in what you're seeing as not just challenges, but also exciting opportunities as well that are existing in fostering. Do you guys think there's a role that an organization such as yours can play in cross-collaborative and cross-country collaboration, overcoming those challenges? What are some of the exciting things that you've seen?
Okay. You gave me like 5 questions there, Morandeni. Hey, you don't hold back.
The world is your oyster. Go
The
for
world
it.
is my oyster. So I would agree with all those challenges. I also think there's like a huge gap in the market for that ESO that kind of sits above the other ESOs and really guides them. I think that's a huge opportunity that's out there. And we all need it. As much as we've all been in business for 12 years or 18 years or whatever, we need it. And then in terms of opportunities out there, I think that there is a massive opportunity in terms of sustainability and green at the moment. All it's doing is growing. There's huge amounts of finance being funneled in there right now. Yes, it's not as big as the other sectors, but it's growing so quickly, and we actually really need to try and keep up. The problem is that they're still putting the same funding expectations on green businesses as they are on any other business. And often these are new businesses, they're innovators, they don't have the know-how. You must tell me when I'm going too much on a tangent here and then you stop me. So they don't have the know-how yet, and we really need to get in there and fill that gap. And I think that's really where we all play in that kind of space. And Indalo is also really, really great at that, is kind of bridging that gap and making them ready for that level of finance. So is that answering?
Yeah, yeah.
Fab.
Interesting story. Before I let Mr. Ntituko answer the next question, many, many years ago, our first ever funding, we got it from the Innovation Hub. So you don't have to say nice things about us. However, if you do, yeah, that's okay. What are some of the best examples, success stories, that you've seen in your work?
Okay, there's quite a lot, and then I will just, touch base on what the gentleman next to me was talking about. We were lucky when we were set up because also we were part of the Climate Innovation Center. There's one in Kenya, so we partnered with the DBSA, and they were able to give us money that was going to go direct into helping the companies, commercial piloting, which was very important, as well as fine-tuning whatever that the guys were developing. And that helps so that the guys will get the first sale or to even leverage some of the funding, because there is no angel funding in most of these guys where they come from, especially the black people who come from such backgrounds. And that was very important, and that we've seen that, dwindling, going down, and that will be very, very important because it doesn't have to be a lot of money. The guys still need testing, especially if I can mention, the likes of you, without us having to get you some of that funding, you wouldn't have been able to get, leverage in some of the successes that you have. But back to your question regarding some of the guys, I will touch base on some of the guys that are doing very well. And we have guys that are in e-waste. They've done amazing. They've opened such big facilities, both here and Pietermaritzburg. And then the exporting, we have a company that is creating energy from compressed air, and they have also, their order book is getting insane, and their first invoice was to the tune of 90 million into Australia. So they actually benefited from their DBSA funding, and a couple of them, and some we have exported to the US, and some have IP'd all over the world. So there's some very good stories, but those guys, they needed that 50,000 rands, they needed that 1 million to pilot, and so forth.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. I can attest to that. Savio, very interesting. You guys started off as a tech incubator, and now you've pivoted a little bit more, and you've become a lot more inclusive. But do you still see a role that technology and digital platform can play in sharing opportunities amongst entrepreneurs and amongst also the organizations that you guys have? Do you still see tech as being a key driver for that?
Yeah, and before I answer that, I just want to reiterate what my friend, what's your name? Anyway, David said, but also in regards to what Dominic said. Dominic said that grant application fatigue syndrome. So we know that it's a question that probably we can also ask ourselves, because it also answers what you asked, whereby I don't know who or what is the baseline. Is it the problem? Is it the donor kind of perspectives? Or is it the sector-specific kind of grant application? Because for us and many of the ESOs, they are there looking for grants. So it's not about what you do, it's about what the donors are looking to fund. And that has been a very big hindrance in regards to we as ESOs not specifying and becoming sector-specific, because all that matters is where you get the grant, which is a big problem. However, according to what you say, technology and internet, as we say, cannot be ignored. And this is because if you ignore technology, it's going to overtake what you're doing. If you look at the agenda, like in Kenya, we have the Agenda 2030, and the Vision 2030 and the Agenda 2063. All those things that are being talked about are all being fueled by things like data and emerging technologies. If you come to Kenya, some of the traditional things that we used to do manually and physically have now been automated. If you come and check some of the solutions that are being implemented, the reason why initially it was very hard to serve big orders and also to optimize the solution is because there was hindrance in regards to accessing state-of-the-art technologies and also data. So right now we are able to compare what other people are doing in Europe and in the US, and we're able to at least copy-paste according to what the other people have been saying. So technology is here, and it has also improved and helped us in regards to knowledge sharing.
Sure. Speaking of which, Mr. David, do you think government has a role to play in this? If so, what do you think their role is?
Definitely, government has a big role to play in innovation, green, inclusive businesses and stuff like that. And I think one of the things that we've been focusing to do, even as a two association, is to push what we call a triple helix model, right? The collaboration between government, private sector, and institutions of learning like universities and so on to collaborate together. Because most times those institutions do a lot of research, they come up with innovations, but it's not going to government. So for policy, development, and so on. So when innovators come to implement those solutions, then there are policy hindrances, right? And it's unfavorable to them. So I think having government all the time in a room where we're discussing innovation, growth, business is really critical. And to have them from the word go. Because sometimes we wait until probably the research, the innovators have gone out to the field, they've used a lot of their sweat capital, they borrowed money, and then when they want to scale, the innovation government comes and says, no, stop. You cannot implement this because it's against the law and so on. So definitely government has a role to play, and we have to speak, as in I think we have to push this model all the more everywhere. Yeah, sure.
So government needs to be sitting on the table.
Sure.
Isabel, you work with an organization that works a lot with the private sector. What do you think the private sector's role is in all of that? Is there a role for private sector in all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely second that. I think that triple helix, you said it so much better than I possibly could have, so I'm so glad you answered this first. But I think that, yeah, corporates have a role to play because they get to act faster than government does. So corporates can make decisions where it would take policy very long to catch up. So their role would be actually proving the concepts for the government to play along. You know, they put money into things like circular economy so that when government starts writing policy, it actually makes sense for government. They go, okay, you know, let's work with these organizations now. And I think that's really where the private sector lies. And hopefully they're funding us.
Mr. Ntuthuko, I'm very, very interested in your thoughts around capacity building. There was a thought earlier about entrepreneurs not being great at taking feedback. I don't relate. I'm great at taking feedback. What do you think, how can capacity building and skills development, the skills that you guys have, what is that bridge?
Okay, I think there has been a mismatch in a sense that, you know, how the industry operates at the moment, especially the corporate SA, they want us to go back and knock instead of them coming to find out how can we collaborate. So that relationship needs to change. We must be looked at as people who are actually giving them something. It's mutually beneficial for both. We're not begging just because we're on this side trying to help us, trying to help entrepreneurs. So that also talked in terms of the capacity building, because when you look at these guys, most of them have an idea, but there's no business acumen. And most of the monies that we actually use, we use to capacitate this government, getting them to a point where they are investment, ready. So that takes a lot of money. So we need, corporate SA to come through as well, to not just rely on government because they're paying their tax and they think government then in the other should take it forward. They need to actually actively be involved. I know that there is sitters. The sitters must also come through. There is lots of monies, and also us, we and Fetola and the guys that are on this side, we need to come up with solutions that we can go for, work with TVETs and work with graduates that are, and haven't found jobs. We need to capacitate. I mean, most of the time when we go to this green hydrogen, most of those talks, they're becoming just a talk. I mean, if there's a big project that comes to South Africa, where are they going to get the skills? Where are they going to get the people to be employed? So basically, we need to be very proactive ourselves to try to bridge the gap and going to partner with these TVETs and on all these others to try to have some small projects and programs that are aimed at capacitating the guys who are on the technical side.
That's, this morning we run a program called Water Champions. These are guys that are helping us operate our systems in communities. One of the things, it's a very simple skill, budgeting and financial wellness. I wish I'd gotten that much earlier, but we got our partners, some of the guys from NEDBANK this morning that came and sat with our Water Champions, guys that are in communities. We had zero ideas about budgeting. So we spent half an hour with someone who knows everything about budgeting, taking us through budgeting. I wish I'd learned that 4 or 5 years ago. So that's a very good example of how we can do some of those things.
And also just on that, because it doesn't have to be always money. As you just mentioning, if they have skill in-house, they can bring those guys to come and help and capacitate our people. So basically that's what I wanted to add.
Absolutely. I'm very interested in some of the exciting opportunities that you guys have seen. As we close off, something that excites you, both about the two regions that we're representing, about the continent that we are in, as people that are supporting enterprises. What are some of the things that are really, really exciting you? And also, you can close us off with that.
I'll go first. I think the biggest thing that's really exciting, particularly coming to this event, is, Dominique, I think, said earlier that we really need to be looking to Africa for inspiration. And in everything that we do, in the innovations that we make, in the technologies we use, in how we strategize and move forward in our businesses, our solutions are catered to us. And I think that definitely we're doing that in a room like this. Bringing people like you guys from Kenya, and I'm so glad I get to see some of my colleagues I saw in Kenya recently again. But bringing people from Kenya, which is also a huge economic hub in the East, to learn from them, I think is amazing. That's really, really exciting. I think it's a huge opportunity for us. And then the other opportunity that's really been exciting me at the moment is the circular economy in South Africa. We recently actually ran a program where just with 65 people, the evidence was there that the growth in income was almost exactly the same as any other enterprise support program SME. The job creation was almost exactly the same, but the profitability was 2 times that of any other business we had in incubation over the last 18 years. And I think that that is something to be excited about. We will be releasing a white paper on it, so keep your eyes peeled, okay, at Fetola and our white paper.
For me, what is exciting is, first, Africa and the African youth are very dynamic. However, over 30%, I guess 30% of Africa is all arable, and that comprises around 60% of the global arable land. However, we just contribute around 3% to the global economy, and around 30% of the world minerals are located in Africa. So if you connect the fact that we are youth and we are dynamic, it means that the future is going to be harsh, first, and two, the youth that we are youth. Right now, I don't want to say we don't care, but we are very dynamic and we are going to get these opportunities back to Africa.
Yeah, I think for me, two things. One is the power of collaboration that is now emerging. I wouldn't have imagined a few years ago that ESOs from different countries could sit together and say, let's learn from each other. Maybe let's hold hands, pick the best practice and scale those across the continent. So that openness in collaboration is coming out more and more, and that is exciting. I think the other thing that is exciting me is my 11-year-old son telling me, I want to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, so I think right now the African continent is really awake to the fact that entrepreneurship is the next big thing. We're not waiting for blue-collar jobs anymore. We want to be entrepreneurs and take charge of our own destiny. I think that is really exciting, yeah.
Okay, I think you touched a very important point there. So for me, I think after during COVID, it was very dire in this country, and we can attest in some of the countries where you guys were going through the same. So, but I've seen the change in the entrepreneurship spirit is coming back, and that is very exciting. And with these platforms that are created, and I think it will be very important, and it's very important when we look at some of the program funding, that we can collaborate together. So there will be that exchange of some of our entrepreneurs going to Kenya to learn how things are done, and some coming this way. And some of the synergies, if there's a bigger company that does exactly what maybe the other counterpart is doing, they can maybe mentor them in some way. So we need to actually develop such strategies, and I see that is going to be helping us to bridge the gap in terms of the knowledge exchange, and I think it's very important. And also, if we go together looking for funding and going to knocking in these funding institutions, we come with a much bigger weight, and then we can be listened to. Thank you.
So I'm going to allow Dr. Mao to just have a few key findings. Actually, no, before I get to the key findings, something that is exciting you. I'm going to open up for Q&A. We'll take roughly 5 questions that are pointed. The entrepreneurs, you guys, please come back in front as well. We'll take just about 5 questions. Please make them specific. Don't start with a preamble. So what was that saying earlier? With the people. Right. Dr. Mao, anything that is exciting you right now?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And everyone must be wondering why I'm sitting here not saying a word. Trust me, as a recovering academic, I like to call myself, took a lot of energy to say something. Because I was given the very difficult task of synthesizing both of these conversations. And if I respond directly to your question in terms of what opportunities excite me, I think that it has already been alluded to in this conversation. Africa as a young continent, I think that presents an excellent opportunity for growth, because everyone is looking at Africa. Many of these countries, particularly these 2 regions, have got relatively good education systems and so on. And for me, having lived in South Africa for 20 years and coming from Uganda, I see really an excellent opportunity for this region to partner with the East African region to tap foreign direct investors, because investors have some level of confidence towards South Africa because of the established systems and so on. But the real opportunity is actually in the rest of the continent. I always working in this space, I always joke that you see all of these development partners and so on, they're actually living here in Pretoria, in Johannesburg. But if you go and ask for funding, they're saying, where is your project? Is it in Nairobi? Is it in Kenya? And so on. So really, there's an excellent opportunity to collaborate between the two regions, and the work that we do at the center is really deliberately trying to see how can we leverage this opportunity and make sure that we link entrepreneurs in these 2 regions.
Amazing. Right. Do we have questions? I'm sure we've got questions. There we go. There's one question there, the table in the middle.
I'll assist you. I will be your runner for this session.
Right. So we've got one question there at the back. Any other question? All right. And then the next one on this table.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zetu Shashwayo. I'm the national spokesperson for NAM, which is the National Association of Artisanal Miners. I also happen to be a member of a community. I belong to Kutala Environmental Care Group. Mine is very simple. Just wanted to find out regarding the informal sector, because I'm leading artisanal miners, which is an informal sector. We have an opportunity, through just transition of making sure that we can formalize and integrate artisanal miners, waste pickers, including fisher folk, because we understand that the informal sector has got a lot of people that are participating in it, but because it's informal and it's not integrated, we are losing a lot of opportunities, a lot of entrepreneurs, and a lot of potential. And we know that young people are the most that are participating in that sector. Just wanted to find out from the panelists if there are maybe collaboration that can be of use, to artisanal miners, waste pickers, the informal sector, to work collaboratively with you guys so that you can be able to strengthen one another, but more than that, we can learn from each other and be able to formalize the sector here in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Debu Khomoya. I work for South African Local Government Association. I had an engagement with the University of Mpumalanga. It's about 10 years old, and I met with the final year environmental studies students. And it was interesting to realize a sample size when I asked them, do they know anything about just transition or just energy transition? It was painful to see that they had no understanding of that. And one of the things we were going there for was to talk on entrepreneurship and all of that. What I want to check from yourselves is how do we cultivate the culture of entrepreneurship, especially in the green space, in these smaller provinces. I mean, Mpumalanga, we sort of a pilot with the JET, but when we are seeing young people within the very same province who still don't have a lot of understanding and information, and also how do they capture the opportunities that are coming by. One of the things that I want to really do is to bring the culture of them thinking towards the entrepreneurship space instead of looking for work. They were calling us to talk about where are the jobs in the environmental sciences stream, but I just want to check with you, how do you start? Because some of you have been in the space for long, you've been doing this. Did you have to go teach them the space and cultivate that entrepreneurship spirit, or how else do you go around that? Thank you.
Right.
Do you want to give the answer?
Okay, can I ask Mr. Tutuko to answer the first question and the second one, and then David as well.
All right, in terms of the Zipo's question, so Zipo, I'm glad that you actually mentioned that question, because it looks as though people, when they come to us, you just have to have a fine-tuned prototype or proof of concept of sort, but we are actually moving away from that. I mean, I was involved in putting together some of the concept, a roundtable concept for manufacturing. And also it's going to be answering the lady over there, to say we need to be proactive in coming up with this solution so that we get the MEC sitting in one table with us to say, and also I've been in such work, so we can talk outside, we can take it outside and discuss the way forward. And I'm very passionate about that. In terms of, the waste takers, we're putting together a program that's going to be helping them. It includes capacitating these people, as well as some competition and monies and prizes that's going to help them to set them up formally. So yeah, there's a couple of things in the pipeline, but we work in silos and the guys are aware, and then we find that we might be doing something similar somewhere. So it's a matter of putting our minds together and coming up with great ideas and solutions and discussing it and getting it out there.
Yeah. I think for the second question around working with university students, just transition entrepreneurship, I think from my experience, the question is always to flip it up to those young people And sometimes, for what I've seen, like we've run some innovation challenges at the universities, and we asked them, from where you were coming from, you're coming from informal backgrounds or rural cities and stuff. What are some of the challenges that you see every day happening within your community? And how can you turn that into an innovation? How could you do it? And you run an innovation challenge around that. So if it's around waste management, if it's around, I don't know, water storage and collection and something like that. And you get the young people in groups. And once people are responding to their own challenges that they've lived, they are very original with the ideas. And if there's then a bit of funding that you would award a prize for the winner of a certain challenge, that a group that came up with the most innovation, then that way they're very much committed. So I think the risk that we have most times is to start with a theory, which is not interesting. But if you start with the real things, the reality on the ground, and tell those young people, how would you solve this in an innovative way? And let's create a competition around that. Young people likes to be challenged and stuff, and to compete against their peers. The more you do that, and then you can come and complement that with a theory. You know, what you did was an innovation, a business model is this way and that way, while they have already a prototype or an MVP or the solution they want to have. So that would be an easy way to flip the problem, and they will be very much engaged. Yeah.
Just to add, we had the same problem when we were starting Mount Kenya Hub, because every time we held competitions and when we were doing the trainings, the same people who attend are the same people who continue to attend. You find the same solution that somebody presented on the first day is still presenting the same solution at the same level. So what we did is, each and every time we need to have, like, you cluster these different cohorts so that it's easier for you to track and trace. If you let them continue being together, whereby you have a first year interlinking with the fourth year, sometimes the first year will think that he knows nothing. Yeah, but when they have different clusters, it's very easy for them to learn from one another, and as well as if you want them to interlink with the people who are ahead of them, it's very easy to interlink. And apart from that, what David just said, is just to flip and make them be the people who are championing these kind of things, so that if they're able to create communities on their own. I have seen, for example, in our hub, we have seen people who are, for example, who are just interested in IoT in agriculture. They just build their own community and they are learning from one another in that different community. People in data science, they are doing the same kind of things, which becomes very easy, and as David said, becomes very interesting for them to learn from one another. So if you're able to cluster, that would be very good.
All right. Dr. Mao, you wanted to say something?
I guess being the academic in this room, I have to say something. No, but one point I wanted to show is that statistics actually show that generally young people at the universities these days are looking towards occupations that have impact. Yeah. So they're not necessarily driven by how much money they're going to be able to make. And if you look at the activity at the universities, the level of associations and so on, there's an increasing interest of young people wanting to do this kind of impactful type of careers. And in my own organization, I always say I have one criteria to hire people, as long as you can write. I don't care whether you did engineering, whether you did social science, and so on. Because the bigger point is that the transition is an economy-wide transition. We don't just want environmental scientists, we want engineers, we want social scientists, we want all sorts of people, so that we can be able to take this message mainstream and can be able to bring about the economy-wide transition that is needed.
Yeah. Isabel, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, I did have one more thing to say. I think that in South Africa, we are in a space where we do have a very low entrepreneurial spirit. It is changing, but we have very sadly had a very low entrepreneurial spirit. And I think from like a government perspective and from banks, from commercial spaces, we need to be encouraging people to take more risks. We don't allow that here. You look at countries like America with very high entrepreneurial spirit, they're allowed to fail like 3 times and the bank will still give them a loan. Here they're like 1 time, sorry, bye. Yeah. And I really think we need to be cultivating that idea that we can take risks and that it's okay to fail. We just really focus on stability, I think, a lot of the time, just keeping things stable.
Sure. Very good point. Last round. All right.
Okay, I just wanted to make it more of a comment with a bit of a question to it. Entrepreneurs, I think, are more born than they are invented or created in colleges and university. The problem with the models you've been talking about where the hubs are sponsoring university students, you've got to talk about the IP, because anything you develop in the university ends up belonging to the university. So the students who go start a business in university end up leaving, and they're back on the street tarmacking looking for a job, and university continues running that innovation. So I really tell innovators, don't share your innovation with anybody, not even your lecturer in the university, because it will get stolen, and you will no longer be your innovation. So there's a lot of challenges there. I think one of the biggest challenges that we've had with my company, we had when we first started out, we needed startup capital and what have you. The innovation, it was actually Kenya Climate Innovation Center. Because we were talking about something completely off the books, because our digester doesn't look anything like the digesters that they saw in the books, to them it was going to fail. And therefore, they wouldn't give us any, they wouldn't fund us in any way. So the innovation centers have to realize that innovators, the I stands for innovation. And as you said, you're going to fail, you're going to get up. So, if you really do have your heart in something, you're going to come across obstacles. You've got to cross them, but it doesn't mean that the innovation is going to fail. It just needs fine-tuning, it needs tweaking, it needs changing, it needs, we changed our model of our digester 4 times before we have what we have right now, because that's how innovation happens, So I think what the innovation centers need to do is realize that, as you said, they've got to allow the innovators to experiment, because that's what innovation is about. It's about experimenting and testing. There's no book on it. There's no history of it, so you can't compare it to anything. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
So that one was a comment and a suggestion. So I'll let anyone who wants to respond to that one.
Thank you for the comment. And I think what we are doing as well as being innovation hubs is actually to engage more universities now. There are some universities that have some innovation hubs, others don't. But there is some researches being done by either students and faculty who are supervising. But the issue is whether those universities actually have an IP policy that allows for sharing of the IP between the innovators, the faculty, the university itself, and so on. Because without such a policy, then there's no protection. And if you're an innovator and you need the faculty, you need the lab to be able to create your innovation. If you hide it, you don't build it. But what is needed more is that all those universities have IP policies in place that actually protect. Yeah, and if you're protected, sometimes you don't even need to have a patent because it takes so long and it's very expensive. The moment you launch a patent registration, so it's called patent pending, you're good enough and you're secured to actually proceed with your innovation. Yeah, so that would be my quick reaction.
Can I give some, just out of my own experience and what I've been told is, for entrepreneurs, build it a little bit first and then go to the universities. Because if you build it at the university, then that's where the IP problems are going to be. So if you've got an innovation, send yourself an email with that innovation. And the email has got a date stamp. It's coming from you. Write that innovation there. And then you can go to collaborative partners. But if you start with the collaborative partners, then the IP situation becomes tricky. And 100% of all South African universities have an IP policy. IP belongs to the university if it's built there. They will give you something as an inventor, but it's never going to be anything close to 50%. So build it first and then go to the collaborative partners. Right now, we partner with the Nelson Mandela University. Great partners, got everything that we need. But that's because we're coming with our own IP. Then they give us the tools, the academic knowledge and everything. We're coming with the IP. I would like to ask Dr. Mao, crystallize it, make it firm, not too academic. And then we'll close up the session.
I think I will start. I mean, a lot of the framework of how I was going to synthesize has already been said. But I would just like to come back from the point of innovation, from a very practical sense, because in 2018, when Cape Town had the water crisis, you know, for those who know, we had like 1 week before the system was going to shut down, basically. The Water Research Commission asked us to do some research work. And the research work was really that South Africa has all of this water expertise, you know, all of this expertise. Why is it that, you know, South Africa is having a water crisis? You know, you have the technology, you have the skills and so on. Why do we have the water crisis? So we spoke to, actually the report is online, called the South Africa Water Innovation Story. It's really, we talked about different innovators and so on. And one of the most important things we found out was that, related to IP, is that a lot of the students, for example, you know, who are actually innovating at the university, they would write their thesis up to a point and not disclose the most, you know, cutting edge thing they've come across, because they are afraid that the university will lash onto it. And with the hope that when they go out there, they're going to be able to continue with their innovation, and unfortunately life happens. You know, they go into corporate space, and so the innovation falls through the system, you know. So how I was actually going to synthesize this session based on the first and the second group was that, you know, when you look at the innovation, we need to think about it as an ecosystem. And it's not something that you can walk a journey alone. I'm one of the people who believe that innovators are good at innovating, but they're not necessarily the best people in building a business. You know? So how do you build those right partnerships so that when your idea can move from one stage into another, you know? And what we found over the years, and I think has been alluded to in this discussion, is that the innovation ecosystem is very broken. You know, you have the universities doing their thing, you have their funders who are looking for pipeline of projects, and then in the middle you have your innovators. And the innovators, what happens is that at the university you might get a little bit of funding to do your research and so on, but when it's beyond proof of concept, when you're starting to do a product market fit, the funding falls through, you know, and then you go the cycle of writing grants and grants and grants, and the next thing you give up, take up the next corporate job, you know? And I think that's really been alluded to in all of these discussions. But for me, what came out very clear here in relation to these regions is that the need for local innovation. I was so glad I never had anyone talk here about, you know, Silicon Valley type models. I always tell entrepreneurs, we don't have space to build games. You know, we want businesses that can create water, that can give us electricity and so on. We're not Silicon Valley, we're Africa. We have problems here that we need to solve. So the local innovation, I think, came out very strongly in terms of what being pushed forward. And also this issue around affordability, that, you know, you can have your innovation, but if it's not affordable, then what are you going to do with it? You know, you have a certain cap through which you can reach. And I think that the fact that, you know, there's relatively, especially from the African Union perspective, this idea around the Africa free trade area, I think that opens really great opportunity for us to start to think. I'm sure that we would not be talking about this conversation a few years ago. Yeah. You know, just yesterday there was a story on IOL that I think Ghanaians and Kenyans, let's talk about this. The number of Kenyan visitors have increased by 247%. And that's because last year, Kenya and South Africa had that agreement of visa-free movement. So you don't have to apply for visas and stuff. So those will open opportunities for us to move forward. And in terms of the incubation space, I think that a lot has already been shared in terms of the challenges, in terms of working with entrepreneurs and the need to handhold entrepreneurs for a long term. And what I would like to say also here is that, you know, the incubation space is not an easy space to do. It's without external funding. It's not something that you can see the results. You know, like I said, with the first incubation program we ran was in 2014. Up to now, we have some of those guys in a WhatsApp group. You know, I often still receive messages requiring recommendations and so on. So it's a long-term journey that needs to be charted. There was a comment around donor and how we respond to donor. I think that if we are more organized on the ground, we should be able to inform the agenda of the financiers instead of the other way around. Instead of responding to what funders want, we should be able to dictate to them what is it that we actually want. Because the truth is that a lot of these investors are sitting with all this money that they need to deploy. They don't know how to deploy that. So the more organized we're on the ground, the better we're able to do that.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Murendeni. Fantastic panel. And I'm sure the panelists will be around a little bit later on should people want to network with them during the cocktail session. So thank you so much to not just this panel, but the panel you had before. And of course, the questions that were coming through from the floor.